Hi friends, it's Lisa Hetrick, illustrator for Gina K Designs, and I'm so grateful you could join me today. I have a super fun tutorial, project/technique tutorial to share with you today. I am going to be showing you how to create watercolor effect backgrounds using some of the new Gina K Designs background stamps. So this background stamp right here is a 6x6 red rubber rose lace background stamp, and I am a wee bit obsessed with it. And I created this card using this background stamp, and I'm not going to be stepping us through the card design today. I am going to be sharing more of a technique tutorial today on how to create some of these fun backgrounds and getting watercolor effects with them. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started on the technique, and I am using watercolor paper for these techniques that I'm going to be sharing with you today. This piece of paper is from Bee Paper Company. It's Aqua Bee. I really love using this watercolor paper for my stamping and paper crafting projects. I've shared it in many other videos, and it's a really, really nice watercolor paper. Here's one of the color combinations that I'm going to be doing today. So we're going to be doing a couple different watercolor techniques using the dye-based inks. Some distressing, some Gina K dye-based inks, and we're going to play around a little bit. So here's another color combination that I'm going to be sharing with you today. I also wanted to share a couple other samples of how I've used these background stamps to create some funky backgrounds. And even this one, a really monochromatic look with some of the blue ink. This one was super fun. This was with using the pink ink and just kind of straight up stamping with it, and also using a little bit of foil accents. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the first technique using this background stamp. And again, this is a 6x6 deeply etched red rubber stamp with the cling background, so it's completely repositionable. You can use it in your MISTI, you can use it on a very large block. I'm just laying it down here on my craft mat surface and just going to work with it here. So here are the three inks that I'm going to start to work with, and I'm going to work, instead of working on the whole stamp, I'm just going to be working in a circular motion. So I have this passionate pink, and I'm just kind of inking it up randomly in a circular motion around this rose lace stamp. And then I've got tangerine twist, and I also have wild dandelion, and I'm letting the colors overlap and bleed with each other around this circle. Instead of using the entire square, I'm just kind of using a little bit of this area because I really want it to kind of have an organic look and feel. So I'm going to go ahead and mist up the stamp, and this is one way to create those watercolor effects and kind of activate those dye-based inks. And then I'm going to take my piece of watercolor paper, and I'm going to lay it right down onto the stamp. So I'm kind of making a print of the stamped image. So I'm just laying it down here and just giving it some good pressure with my hands. And then I'm going to lift it away so that we can reveal the look and feel. And because I took that water and I misted the stamp, we have some areas of the stamp that have kind of a little bit of an overspray. So there's a little bit of like organic look and feel around the edges here. There's also some areas of this print that are really sharp and show the deeply etched look and feel of the stamp, the background stamp. And then there's also edges that have bled together. So you can see the tangerine twist and the wild dandelion and how they've bled together and come together really beautifully to give you those beautiful watercolor effects. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and move on to more of a wet watercolor based technique using these four inks up here. So I'm going to use some distress inks, and I am going to mix in a little bit of dye ink in this technique as well. So again, I'm going around the rose lace stamp with the different inks, and just kind of inking it up in a circular motion. And I'm adding a little bit of color here and there. And it is very, very random because I want this look and feel to be kind of organic and not really squared off. So I'm adding a little bit of color in different spaces, and I'm also overlapping that color. So this is dry. The ink is dry. I did not wet the stamp ahead of time. I haven't wet anything yet. So I'm just going ahead and laying down all of these colors to get to kind of ink it up and get it ready to go. Now, the difference between this technique and the first one is instead of wetting the stamp, I am really going to saturate the watercolor paper. So in watercolor, this would be a wet on wet technique. So I'm really, really getting a lot of water, misting that piece of watercolor paper up. And then I'm going to take this watercolor paper and lay it down on the stamp, just like I did with the first technique, and make a print. But my effects are going to be very, very different because there's a lot more water here. So you can see that the colors have really bled together. I love this color combination, but some of the detail in the stamp is not there. It's more of a really super watercolory look and feel. The colors are beautiful. They've got a lot of deep richness to them, but you can see based on the first one that I pulled from the stamp, this one is lacking a little bit of detail, but I still love it because it's just got a lot of beauty to it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next technique. And again, I'm using the Distress inks again, and I'm just kind of randomly placing the ink, again, in that circular motion around the stamp and blending the two colors, all of the colors together as we go. So I'm going to show this version with this color combination, but this time I'm going to wet the stamp. So I'm going to go ahead and take the mister here and wet the stamp, lightly wet the stamp to activate the dye inks and the Distress ink. And now I'm going to go ahead and lay that watercolor paper down and gently press down on it to pull another print from this. So you can see the color combination, but you're going to see that there's a lot more detail. So again, oh, I love this color combination. But take a look at how the colors have blended together. So between the Distress inks and between the dye-based inks, how they've kind of come together. Look at that tangerine and the blue and how they've really blended together to create another color combination. Now, wetting the stamp is going to give you more detail in your look and feel for the background that you pull. And wetting the paper, like I did over here on the right, is going to give you more of a watercolory look and feel. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. And this time I'm showing the technique again, but I want to talk a little bit about how I can intentionally use these inks, the dye-based inks, to create other colors. So a little bit of watercolor mixing with dye-based inks on the stamp. So you can see I've got the Tranquil Teal here, and I have the Passionate Pink, and I'm mixing the two together, and where the two meet, they're going to create another color. And this is kind of fun because you can take your dye-based inks and you can use them on these background stamps to really create different color effects and maybe a color that you might not even have. So I'm taking the Wild Dandelion here and I'm just kind of pushing the dandelion color in a couple different spaces. When you take yellow and you use it on top of other colors, it will make your colors pop. So I tend to use it last and a lot to make my pinks and my blues pop. So I went ahead and mixed the stamp with a little bit of water, and I'm going to go ahead and lay the watercolor paper down to pull a print. And I'm really super excited to share this one with you because I love the idea of taking your supplies and stretching them a little bit further and creating new color combinations. Look at the color. Oh my gosh. So you could see where the Tranquil Teal and the Passionate Pink come together and they blend and they create this really beautiful violet color by just kind of overlapping those two shades together. You're able to create a completely different color, and I just love that. And when I took the wild dandelion and I just popped it in a couple of different places, you can see how it blended with the tranquil teal and it created this beautiful green. Okay, so here's an example of how I've used some of these prints that I've made with the background stamps on a card. So it is the perfect background for your cards, and you can layer on top of it. You can see in this card I used a little bit of the rose gold embossing powder, and I layered some stamps on top of it. I used some stamps from my Hello Beautiful set and my UR stamp set, and created this layering on top of the pattern paper that I already created. So really simple way to use these background stamps to create beautiful watercolor washed out backgrounds that are just as beautiful as patterned paper. So you can create your own. So I really love the idea of using our stamps and stretching them a little bit to create these beautiful, beautiful backgrounds. So now I have all of these wonderful backgrounds all ready to go to create some cards with. And I love these color combinations, and it's really simple for you to use your dye-based inks or distress inks to create these watercolor effects. Just love it! Okay, so again, this is the Rose Lace 6x6 cling background, and it is just perfect for creating any kind of background that you would like for your card bases. There are also a couple more 6x6 stamps that Gina has released. Like I said, this one is the Rose Lace. This one right here I am super digging, and I have another video coming out using this one. This one's Diagonal Stripes, and this one right here is Petite Flourish. Love this one too! And this final one right here is Gauze, which is a really great background for stamp kissing. And actually all of these backgrounds would be amazing for stamp kissing. So here is, again, an example of what it looks like to create some watercolor effect backgrounds. And I hope you really, really will give this a try. It's a really, really fun technique to do to create some fun card bases. So here's an example of the final card again, and the sample of the different backgrounds that were created today. So I hope you'll give this technique a try. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.